Hello there, and welcome to this update for the month of May. May's been a bit of a sort of a bittersweet month in terms of portfolio returns. This is largely due to the portfolios have all over the month outperformed their market benchmarks, which is good news, which means the strategies are working. However, global marketplaces still won't quite behave properly and normally for a bit. There's been a bit of consternation in the States due to President Biden wanting to go through the debt ceiling over there. That's passed yesterday, so hopefully a bit of that uncertainty should ease. However, essentially what that means is that Biden wants to borrow more money. In the States, they have a legislative debt ceiling that's been imposed by previous governments. So in order to essentially borrow more, it has to get passed through their democratic system, which is a bit challenging because Biden doesn't really have control of their democratic system, despite the fact that he's the president. So it's a bit awkward. Over the year, however, I've just printed off a quick little chart of where we're up to. And most portfolios are, in fact, all portfolios are outperforming their benchmarks. Sadly, again, and this is due to gilt yields, which is due to essentially the Chancellor of the Bank of England keeping on increasing interest rates for little to no reason. I mean, even Steph McGovern, who you may recall as being a sports correspondent, has worked out that it's not a good idea to keep increasing interest rates because nobody's got any spare money. Lower risk portfolios are down still over the year. The cautious models down 4.36%. The benchmark's down 4.4%, so we've not beaten it massively. However, we are overexposed to gilts over the benchmark. So as the Chancellor of the Bank of England, fingers crossed, realises his mistake, then we should see that start to go. We should see that start to go the other way. Cautious to balanced model is down 2.6% over the year. The relevant benchmark is down 3.09%. So we're a good margin ahead of that. Although, again, I don't like reporting on losses, but this is the world we're in at the moment. The other two benchmarks are negative territory. The only other model that's negative territory is hybrid balanced, which is kind of like the medium risk portfolio, which is down 0.7%, and the relevant benchmark there is down 1.6%. So we're still ahead of the market. Over the longer term, like 5 years, we're still massively ahead. For instance, the one that most investors are in, which is cautious to balanced, that's made nearly 22% over 5 years, whereas the relevant benchmark has made nearly 8%. So we've got we've made a good bit of headway over the past 5 years. So performance of the portfolios is good, apart from the fact that the performance of the markets is bad. I have been requested by several of my clients to start receiving more regular valuations, so we're going to start doing that. So for those clients who are my diamond clients, we're going to start sending quarterly valuations out to you. So you should be receiving the first quarterly valuations next week. In terms of portfolio performance, we're on top of it. We're doing well. We're doing well compared to the benchmarks. However, the benchmarks still aren't doing particularly brilliantly. So that's just a challenge that we've got at the moment. High risk clients actually have done all right. ESG Adventurous, I think, is the best performing over the year, which has made nearly 4%, which is still rubbish compared with cash, because you can get a 4% interest account, or could you have done about a year ago? Yeah, I think we've underperformed cash, which is flaming fantastic. But that's just the market we're in at the moment, and to be honest, there's not an awful lot you can do about it. It's all based on global factors. I mean, this all started with Putin, and then essentially the Chancellor of the Bank of England made a few policy mistakes. We've still got the terrible Brexit deal that Johnson signed. I mean, whether you voted for Brexit or not, I'm pretty certain that nobody voted for Brexit voted for this specific version of it, because it's awful. I think people actually did vote for like a better future, not this like return to the sick man of Europe 70s Britain that we seem to be living in at the moment. But hey ho. And yes, I am a Ramona. I know, I've got a bias, but it's a lot of. See, the problem is if you look at something like core inflation, which is currently at around about. So inflation stats are down. Well, CPI, consumer price index, that's down from what was it, 10.7 to like 8 point something, which looks good on the face of it. However, it's not good because core inflation went up. So core inflation went up from 6.1 to 6.6 or something like that. What core inflation is basically food. So core inflation means these are the things that people definitely have to buy. So the core cost of living is going up. So poor people who don't contribute to the additional bit of inflation, who just spend money on core inflation, their costs have just gone up, right? And so increasing interest rates is essentially going to increase the rent that they get charged because landlords tend to pass on these costs. And so, you know, if you if you look at core inflation and track that alongside interest rate increases, you see it's pretty strongly correlated. There's just a bit of a lag. So all that these interest rate increases have done is just put costs on to poor people. So that's what's happened. Now, is that helpful? Not really, because we haven't got an economy that's growing in real terms. We've got GDP growth is well below the rate of inflation. So essentially, we've got an economy expanding at a slower pace than the currency it's in is expanding. So in real terms, the economy is shrinking. So in effect, over the last year, we've been in an inflationary recession, a recession that's been caused by inflation. But it's not a technical recession because a technical recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. So 2 negative quarters of GDP. So the government's got away with avoiding a technical recession because well, to be quite frank, because of high inflation, which has caused the price of stuff to go up, which has made GDP go up because, you know, GDP is affected by inflation. Have we got real economic growth? No. I mean, I'd argue we haven't really had real economic growth since about 2008, if I'm being honest. But you know, and that's why the country's been gradually feeling a bit more squeezed and a bit more tight over the last like 15 years. I mean, it's not 13 years, it's 15. It's a global financial crisis that we never really properly recovered from for a whole variety of reasons. That's far too complicated for this which supposedly short video. So anyway, I'm rambling on now. I could go on at length. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video about what's happened over the last 15 years and why we're in the position we are in. I'd quite happily record one. In other news, I did do an interview about how to do adulting with George Bell over at Boston College. That's being edited and sorted out at the moment. So yeah, I'll wish you a prosperous June and a very good day.